Hey, 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 what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know that I'm late, but you guys know me, I'm always late. And not only that, I was having so much fun with my guest here talking beforehand. I just want to thank you so much, Alex, for coming on such short notice and just being here and talking about this subject.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the elephant in the room, right? You are a paranormal researcher, and pronouns she, they, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't feel like we have enough of that in this field in general. I think that it's awesome what you're doing for the paranormal community in general, for ghosts in general, just for knowledge in general. So right off the bat, I want to thank you for being brave and facing down what a lot of us do face down constantly. You're rocking it out there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, what you're up to, maybe what you have planned, just whatever you want to throw out there, they will eat it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, as you said, I'm a paranormal investigator and researcher. I have a team called the Association of Paranormal Study. I also run the spooky stuff, which is basically like my more casual, informal brand that I have, so that if I say something stupid, my team doesn't get too affected by it, or it doesn't come across as an endorsement from my team.
Right,
Um,
right.
you know, yeah. So I was originally a theater kid. I had experiences starting from about age 6 or 7 years old. Um, got a master's degree in theater. Really, kitty. I have a kitty that's stepping on my keyboard, which is awesome. I'm also a crazy cat lady. I have lots of cats. This is Callie right here.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, she's your favorite too. Yes, she is. And yeah, so now I after freelancing as an actor, as a spooky person, back and forth, been teaching careers for several years. I now work in corporate America, so I guess I sold out a little bit, but I do like the insurance and the benefits. It's nice to have some stability.
It is. It is.
um, yeah, so now pretty much I live in the DC metro area. I do investigations. I do residential cases as well, more so on a case by case basis these days. Now I just don't take any case anymore.
Right.
Um, I'm a big advocate for inclusivity and diversity in the paranormal. I'm also, because this doesn't necessarily pay my bills, I am a little bit more eager to call out the problematic behavior that I see. Unfortunately, this has made me some, not necessarily enemies, but there are a lot of higher profile people who don't like me, you know, um,
Yes. Yes.
especially with some of the more popular TV investigators and creators. They're not the biggest fan of me. Because again, I'm also part Asian as well. I'm a quarter Japanese. I'm white presenting, obviously, but I am very sensitive to the imbalance of people of color in the community, as well as the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yes.
Um, pan, pansexual. I love cooking.
Yes, absolutely. Bake on the weekends.
you know yeah, so because I was in theater for so long, I came from, theater, the theater world has its problems too, but I was used to having a very inclusive and diverse plane of existence around me, especially growing up in Southern California.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Working in professional theater, I was used to a lot of diversity around me, and then I
Right.
came into the paranormal and I'm like, okay. Well, this is
Yes.
interesting. And
Yes.
then once I did find the diverse, the more diverse people in the paranormal, I'm like, okay, let's be friends. Please don't leave me.
Yes. That's exactly
uh,
what I did to you. That's
yeah.
exactly what happened. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey, and like I said, I'm not getting paid the big bucks from being in the paranormal, so I feel like I am in a position where I can be a little bit more vocal cuz I don't have as much to lose, I guess.
Right. Right.
Um don't get me wrong, I do monetize on my platforms a bit. Literally just enough to cover the bills, like that,
Yeah.
to the bills to have the spooky stuff, which is
Right.
great. I
Right.
can't ask for anything better than that. Um But yeah, so, I also write books. I write about haunted places, ethics of paranormal investigating, how to investigate. Um, Working on a book right now about the founding mothers of the paranormal. So
Oh my God.
the women who had a hand in creating the field that we have today.
That's amazing.
Well, because we can name like Hans Holzer, Harry Price, Peter Underwood. We can name all of these more prominent male paranormal researchers, parapsychologists, but can we name 5 women just off the top of our heads right now? That doesn't include Lorraine Warren.
No, that was
We
going to
can't.
be my scapegoat. Was going to like, yeah, that's the only one that comes to anybody's mind.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, and that's
Yeah.
not even. That's a subject for another time. So, my gosh, you are busy.
I am. I don't sleep very much, and I'm trying to play roller derby again because I'm insane.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to play about 10 years ago, under the name of Blarney Smash. Um, if I
Good.
if I get back into it, I mean, I'm started the process. If I
Mhm.
do get back on a team and I'm in it again, I'm gonna be Blarney Boo because,
As you should.
yeah. So,
As you should.
yeah.
That reminds me, quick disclaimer for anybody that's listening. If anything that we're about to say hurts your feelings, then you probably should reevaluate the way that you're paranormal investigating. And yeah, I just said that. I said that out loud. We're gonna take a dive here, and if you don't like it, I love your face, but you can move on because I really don't have anybody like that on this channel. I don't know why I'm talking like that, but I feel like there may be some lurkers who are going to be like, ooh, like you can't say that. Yes, I can say that. And if it hurts your feelings that talking to spirits and ghosts and things a certain way to get responses makes you mad, then toodaloo.
Yeah.
All right. So this subject in general. Oh, by the way, everybody, links are below for all of the awesomeness that she just spouted in that couple minute segment there. Her website's down there. YouTube, please go over there, subscribe, show love. TikTok, you're blowing up on TikTok. The books are through your website. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they're you can get them on Amazon too. Just type in my name. If anyone, has cash to burn and they want to get a signed copy for me, that's an option too, and that's on my Etsy store. So,
Ooh, oh, Etsy. I don't know if I put a link in there or not. Oh, yes, I did. I'm
yeah.
on it. Yep, Etsy's down there too. She's got some shirts, some buttons, all sorts of stuff. You guys need to go check that out. That being said, the subject for tonight, which I so very much love, is how to, on a broad spectrum, how to interact with spirits or ghosts or what have you, and get the responses you want without utilizing trauma.
Mm.
And yes, that's a heavy one. That's a heavy one. Now, another disclaimer to go with the first one. Everybody has their own style. We're not picking on anybody. But I feel like there is a very small but growing, thankfully, pocket of empathy and realizing that you don't have to go in and start swinging and throwing things and invoking A, B, C, and D. You can walk in like you're walking into a room full of normal, alive human people, start up a conversation, and get more amazing results, mind you, than if you were to walk in with the same pickup line. Now we're not going to get into details, but you realized this sort of in the same way that I did, but yours is definitely a little bit different. So you had an event happen in your life that is uncomfortable to talk about, and people keep asking you about it, and reliving that to tell the story made you feel a certain way. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. What was interesting was I had never planned on telling that story. It just the opportunity kind of fell into my lap. And after I told the story, I realized because I was telling it for TV, that it was probably going to get maybe a bit embellished or exaggerated, if not a bit skewed. So I decided to write a book about it, which writing that book, it was cathartic and healing for me because I had never really talked about it with people before. But of course, after the book came out and after the episode aired, I was getting a lot of interview opportunities for it. But I realized as I was rehashing that event over and over again, it was starting to really take a negative effect on my mental health, my physical health. I was starting to get flashbacks again. And at a high level for your viewers, I was in a really bad car accident. Like, not just a car accident, but also a really bad fall after I got hit by a car. Um, so there was a lot of PTSD associated with this event, and I found myself taking multiple steps backwards in my, I don't know if healing's the right word, but just coping with what happened.
Right. Yeah.
Because I actually never really went to therapy for it until 2020, and I was like, "Oh, snap. I probably should have started going to therapy, like, after it happened." Like, after I got discharged from the hospital, that might have been a good time to make an appointment, but, I was 20 and thought I was invincible.
Yeah, of course.
And then you hit your mid-20s and your 30s, and you're like, "I'm not okay. I'm not okay, mom." So, but just having to tell that story over and over again, and I couldn't just be like, "Well, just read the book."
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
say that because that's an asshat thing to say. Like, just
Yeah.
buy my book and read it, or watch
Right.
my episode.
Right.
I don't want to be that person.
Right.
But also at the same time, like, I really don't want to talk about this anymore. And it went on for a while, and then the book got popular again, and so, like, that same wave came. And initially I thought maybe it was just the overwhelmingness of, watching your episode on TV, because the episode did do a good job of capturing, like, the really traumatic moments, and I was on the floor, like, crying, like, "Oh my god."
Of course. Yeah. They nail that every time, I'm sure.
They nailed it, and I was like, "Holy crap." But so I thought maybe it was just like the residual of that, but then I had another surge of like, "Hey, let's talk to you about this book and this accident." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure." And it was
Yeah.
like twice a week I had an interview about it, and again the flashbacks came back, and it was just, I started to dread talking about it and rehashing it and going and talking about the details again. And I don't know, the light bulb, or I always say the wheel's spinning, but the hamster's dead. But in this case, the hamster reanimated. And I had that light bulb moment. And I'm like, holy crap, this must be what ghosts feel, or spirits feel like, when you're asking them about their trauma every
Yes.
time you're on an investigation.
Yes. 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 That just nailed it on the head. And I'm getting right back to that. But first, Nico and Amy, I saw those donations come through. You guys rock. Thank you
Nice.
so much for that. I really, really appreciate that. I didn't want to, I'm not going to interrupt you, but
Go ahead and
that's
interrupt me.
awesome.
That's
No,
awesome.
heck no. Thank you guys for that donation. That's really helpful. I really appreciate you guys so much. So yes, going back to the mic drop moment, it's a really powerful thing you just said, because we paranormal investigators, paranormal researchers, beginners in the field, experts in the field, people that are on their way out, people that are on their way in, children, it doesn't matter. We are literally talking to spirits, ghosts, what have you, that have passed on. And to do that, you have to die. Usually, you have to die to do that. And sometimes it's a good death. That can happen. Sometimes it's an awful death. Sometimes it's traumatic. We don't need to get into the details of all of that stuff, but there are so many things that can happen from the time that you are born to the time that you pass away. I realize I'm saying the D word, and YouTube's probably going to pick up on that. New rules, guys. So from the time that you're born to the time that you go into the afterlife, so much can happen. And it can be a beautiful journey. It can be heart-wrenching. It can be glorious. It could be fighting for your life the whole time. You just never know. So we are literally going in to active conversations with spirits. Hopefully that's what you're looking for when you're looking to speak with the deceased. And as you mentioned, being asked the same things over and over again, especially in places that are big and popular, eventually you're just going to give up. I think everybody would. It's literally triggering trauma. And if it's, again, everything is not scientifically proven, so we don't know if that little trauma switch can flip off but I can almost guarantee you that it does not. By the way, that is my bulldog who is snoring very loudly. Another disclaimer for you. But it's not something that you can just switch off. And we can tell this, not scientifically for the speculators that are out there, but we can tell this by the conversations that we're having and the feelings that we feel, right? And you don't have to be gifted to be able to do this, but especially the gifted people. So to be able to have a conversation that's different, that's not traumatic, that's not demanding. I mean, I think that you rattled off a list, and I don't know if I wrote it down, but you're probably going to be able to tell it better than me. Like, did you really, I have a question for you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Did you really switch recipes with a spirit?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I do love telling this story. So we were at the Jenny Wade house in Gettysburg.
Okay.
Sorry to any locals watching this. Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And we were sitting in the kitchen where Jenny was unalived, where the bullet hit her. So Jenny Wade, for anyone who doesn't know, was the only civilian to lose her life from combat during the Battle of Gettysburg. Basically, she got hit by a stray bullet, knocked her out pretty quickly. A lot of trauma. This place is a trauma-based haunting, and most of Gettysburg is a trauma-based haunting. But in this case, so we didn't go in right away of like, Jenny, how does it feel to lose your life at such a young age? You know, we don't do that. But we were just kind of sitting and taking in the moment. And I was running the Phasma box, which is an ITC program, mainly for Windows. They don't make it for Apple or Mac.
Well, good.
It works similar to the EchoVox, except not as chaotic to me. I can hear words and pick up on things better. This is Callie, everybody. I was telling Richelle, like, she's probably going to make an appearance.
I love it.
Yeah. So we started listening, just saying, oh, is there anyone here with us? Just want to talk. And we were picking up on possibly Jenny. We don't know for sure because, ghost theory.
Correct.
Really? Do you want to talk on the microphone, Callie? She's like rested her head on the microphone. Hi, baby. So yeah, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Oh my gosh. She's got the prettiest color.
Little cat butt. There we go. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
And so, but then all of a sudden words like apple, flour, cinnamon, sugar started coming through. And I'm like,
oh,
is this an apple pie recipe? Yes. I'm like, oh, okay. Apple pie. What kind of pie do you like? We were talking about like, she started it started going up. Whoever was talking with us was giving us the ingredients for an apple pie recipe. And so I shared a cookie recipe. Like, for a cookie recipe, you need like a cup of flour or, things like that. I actually almost went with the Dolly Parton, like cup of flour from Steel Magnolias, cup of flour, cup of fruit cocktail.
Yes.
Because that's like the easiest thing. But yeah, so it was a delightful conversation. I'm like, if my Saturday night consists of swapping recipes with a ghost, I am totally fine with that.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Yeah, so
that's amazing.
And that's just an example of like other things one could talk about instead of talking about like how somebody lost their life or, in Gettysburg, it's really easy to fall into that trap too of how did you lose your life or how did you feel about the Civil War? And it's like, well, I lost my entire family or my husband didn't come home. Like, how would you feel?
Right.
There's so many other different ways that we can engage with spirits that are, well, to me, just as interesting. TV producers may disagree, but I don't know. I would also watch a TV show of people swapping recipes with ghosts. So,
oh my God, are you kidding me? Absolutely. We get Paula Deen up in there. We will be golden. Are you kidding? That is awesome. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And that is something that as a smaller channel, especially as a female growing up channel wise with there was a boom during the 2020 P word. We're not going to say that either. The 2020 P word, the start of everybody quarantining and all that. There was a huge boom in YouTube channels that were being started, me included. So it's hard to start with a group of people and watch them grow exponentially, which I'm very happy that they are, don't get me wrong, but they're doing it for other reasons. And it's really hard to stick to your guns sometimes. So it's hard. It's just hard to talk about. So to go into a place, especially if you're collabing with somebody and you're wanting to talk about their favorite color, what was their favorite holiday, what was their what board game did they love the most, did they have socks back then, I don't know, versus the ones that are literally in the same room as you who are screaming and acting a fool by my standards, not by theirs, which is completely okay. Again, I'm not singling anybody out, but you know, those responses that they're getting is not the same. It's not the same. And as you said, unfortunately, it sells, and it absolutely does. That sort of behavior does sell, which is something that I think we're all trying to change, and slowly but surely, I think it is. But
Slowly but surely. Yeah, and I feel you on the growth thing, because I mean my channel started before the pandemic, and my YouTube channel is not a paranormal investigation show. It's more of just me on a microphone talking about a topic for like 10-15 minutes, and then it's like peace. But even like on TikTok, right now I'm at about, and I'm not saying it as a flex, but I have about 145,000 followers on TikTok. Same deal. I'm not investigating. But also sometimes I see that I don't get a lot of views on my content these days. I mean, I don't even hit 10% anymore. And so I really have to dig deep into like, okay, well, why am I doing this? Is it for the views, or is it because I like sharing spooky stuff and whoever listens will listen? But I get frustrated when I see your stereotypical investigators getting like millions of followers and millions of views for just pointing a camera at a REM pod and talking about how that person lost their life. And I'm like, hey, okay,
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And on the flip side, like it doesn't even have to be, you know, about how they lost their life. It could be, you could be at a freaking, I don't know, I've been to a few murder houses in my life, and you know, you're talking to you think you're talking to a murderer or whoever committed this crime, and it's, you know, maybe they don't want to talk about it, maybe it was an accident, maybe it was in a cry of passion, and as you said, maybe the person that they unalived is in the room as well, sitting in the corner, reliving everything because I'm sitting here trying to get answered. Like, it's just, it's a mess, guys. It's a mess. It is. We can do better. We can all do better. We've all done it. Nobody's innocent. We've all done it.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, intentionally. I think it's
Man.
hard. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And those M houses, I know the YouTube thing, can get really hard to investigate too. Cause I mean, I went to the Lizzie Borden house in November, and I was with a whole group of other women. But I actually opted to not do any questioning, because at that point I was like, I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't, and plus, when you're in a large group investigation, sometimes it's really hard to, to really get in there. But obviously, then one of the people has a very active relationship with that house, like they go very often, and immediately it was just jumping to trauma. And I'm like, and personally, I didn't really experience the famed haunting that everybody talks about there. Maybe I was a little disappointed, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't really want to, I don't know. It was just weird being in that house. It was just very weird being in that house. And the crime photos they put the crime photos next to the spots where Abby Borden and Andrew Borden were found. Like their crime scene photos are right there. So you get to see the whole thing. And I don't know. It just felt a bit like almost like Frontierland at Disneyland, but for unaliving.
Yes.
And it felt a little icky. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. That's, I mean, we could literally chop this into, no pun intended. Sorry, Lizzie. We could literally segment this into, 15 different, 15 different ways that we can talk about just all the different facets and avenues that this can take. But it's like you said something on your video, and I have it linked below, the main one where you talked about the subject in general. But it's, it's not like you can go into a place anymore, especially the more well-known places, and have your own experience.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger places are so overplayed, and a lot of people who are truly going in there for investigative purposes or just for experiencing the atmosphere or the energy are not coming up with the same feelings and experiences that bigger names are having.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even that the place is selling. And that's a whole nother problem in itself. And I think it's definitely stems from what we're talking about. It stems from going in with trauma. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean the place is haunted. It doesn't mean that the place is not haunted. Like maybe everybody's just sick of our shit. I mean, they don't want to talk to us day after day. They don't want to. Every night it's the same thing, same questions. Can you touch this? Can you make this ball light up? Can you? It's bad. It's bad. And
yeah. And everybody that goes into at least the Lizzie Borden house, they're all trying to solve the crime too. And I'm like, that's, even if there was somebody there, if I was Andrew and Abby, I'd just be like, oh, for F's sake, like,
yeah. It's not going to come across the box, guys. It's not going to happen.
You're not going to come up with anything riveting. And even if some voice did come through saying, oh yeah, it was me, I did it, we never know who we're talking to in this field. It's so
exactly
could be a bunch of tricksters, or somebody who could be someone like me, got their master's degree in theater and life, couldn't use it, so I'm going to use it in the afterlife. You bet I might be role playing.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'll touch that. I'll make that light up. Swink.
Yes, I'm Abby Borden.
Yes, that was me. I absolutely did it. I used an axe. Woo. So yeah, the things that we can all do as paranormal investigators, content creators, and just the general enthusiasts is not necessarily, shun the people that are still using these techniques, in my opinion, but you should definitely take everything with a grain of salt. Other questions that we can ask, like we talked about a little bit, did you have pets? But you have to be careful because maybe their pet was their service animal and that was their entire life. You can ask about kids, same thing, could be a trigger factor. Family is a good thing to talk about, could be a trigger factor. But something that you said actually as a good icebreaker is actually talking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because that's absolutely true.
Yeah. And, we go in there. I'm talking about conventional ghost hunts, paranormal investigations. People are always going in and asking them the questions, but there's never really, it's always been like this imbalance of information exchange. But I think they're curious about us just as much as we're curious about them. So I'll usually do something super high level of like, yeah, hi, my name's Alex. I live near Washington, D.C. Depending how far I traveled, I'll either say, oh, I'm just down the road, or I traveled a bit to come talk to you, and I hope, you'll come talk to me. Depending on the history of the place, I may go a little deeper. Like when I went on the USS Hornet, I talked about my grandfather who was Japanese American and served in the Army during World War II. That did bring up activity. Nice. Or if it's someplace like if I were to go to Maplecroft with, Lizzie Lisbeth, I probably would talk more about my queer side of life.
Right.
Because there's, strong speculation that she was, queer.
Mm-hmm.
And, kind of see what happens and just share some things. You never know what may happen, and they may find something in you that they can relate to, and you may have a better connection because of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a very good point. It helps to do your research, know who you're talking to, for sure. That's a great point, because how many people come through and talk about queer subjects with somebody that probably had to hide it her entire life? It's just, it's a good way to open the door, and it doesn't have to be that. It can be gardening, it can be puppies, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
But it's way better than, how many of you are with me? How did you die? What? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Right off the bat, okay, Sundancer, I saw your donation. I did not forget. I was just looking for a segue. Thank you so much for that. You guys are awesome with your donations. If anybody has any questions, we are going to wrap this up at 9. We do have some time left, but if you have any questions for Alex, please put them in the chat and I will put them up. It looks like everybody's just agreeing because everybody here is pretty good about all that. And
Nice.
it's not always easy. It's not always easy to, especially in the pressures of this world, being the paranormal world, investigative world, not counting the regular world, but it's not always easy to do it. But it's definitely a movement that I think that we have to make, and I think anybody that wants to implement these practices will be generally pretty surprised at the responses that you're going to be getting. Coming through.
Yeah. And plus, it's just nice to have a pleasant conversation with a ghost instead of like talking about all the terrible stuff. I realized, especially, I love going to Gettysburg. I only live 90 minutes away from there, so I'm up there often. Oh,
nice.
I'm up there often. So I'm a big Civil War buff. Antietam, Manassas, like all those battlefields are around me. But I'm in a position where that is exciting for me. To them, it's not. And I have to be careful sometimes when I do, because, yes, some soldiers do come through to me sometimes, but I have to be very careful that I'm like, oh, yeah, Devil's Den. And it's like, yeah, I got a sniper got me a Devil's Den. Thanks.
Yeah, so exactly. This is the worst. Literally the worst moment of my life. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you're excited.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true.
Where were you 160 years ago with that excitement?
Hey, Jenny, how did that bullet feel, as you bled out in the kitchen? Was that awesome? Let's talk about pie. It's
right.
It's terrible. So yeah, I just love what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I'm glad that you're making a stand and you're calling out some of the behavior that's going on here, because everybody in life is different, just like they are in death. And but we got to do better. I completely agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And it's not a perfect world. I mean, I still default to some of those questions that we shouldn't. And it's a bad habit. I mean, gosh, I'm going on like 10 years of a trauma-based approach.
Yeah.
And, it's a hard habit to break, and I have to be like, no, stop it.
Bonnie has a question. When you're investigating, would you rather be informed or go in with little knowledge of what may have occurred there?
That's a great question. So it depends these days. Usually I used to go in with all the information because I wanted to know, like, if I was talking to somebody, I wanted to be able to continue that conversation. But then that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, that could be trauma-based too, because if that's,
Yeah.
So now I kind of go in like a little bit more neutral. So I'll go in with some information, but I'm trying to be very cognizant of my own bias too. Like, just because, like, say I go to a house that's said to be haunted by a little girl named Nancy. I go and I hear a child in the spirit box, and then I may assume it's Nancy. It may not be Nancy. It could be a little boy named Jimmy. Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
So but I will say I do try to have at least one person on site who knows everything, because I have a team. I do have a historian on the team. She's the manager of the Mary Washington House in Fredericksburg, actually. So
nice.
I hit the lotto with that.
Yeah.
I hit the lotto with her. I'm just like, please don't ever leave my team. Please. So usually she'll be the one that's like the most informed, and she also knows so much history, and to her benefit too. Because if, say, we do engage with someone from the 1800s, she'll start talking about their clothes and start talking clothes. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's awesome. But at least if I want to have at least somebody there, to help continue the conversation if
Mhm.
needed these
Mhm.
days. So I'm kind of 50-50, but if I don't have that person, then that will usually be me, but I won't inform the rest of the team. Um, the context, because again, we're trying to avoid as much bias as possible.
Right. Right. That's hard to do. It's really hard to do. It
It's
is.
so hard.
It is. Usually, if anybody that doesn't know, a lot of these places that you investigate, 9, maybe 7 times out of 10, they start out with a tour. And the tour starts out with all of the hotspots. And all of the hotspots are not your hotspots, it's their hotspots. So
Mhm.
it's tough. It's tough to sort through it sometimes. And like you said, it's hard not to be biased, and it's hard not to, when you hear on the tour that there's, like you said, children there, and the child comes through, automatically you're going to jump to that when it could be somebody completely different. It could be a
Mhm.
visitor. You don't know. It could be somebody that followed you in from the stoplight down the road. You have no idea.
Yep.
So it's tricky. And on top of that, if you're doing it for entertainment purposes only, and I'm not talking about the entertainment purposes only where you embellish things on YouTube. I'm talking about trying to keep people excited and engaged in the paranormal by making it exciting. It's really hard to dive deeper into that, let's say, little girl Nancy, who may not be Nancy. Like, that might be exciting for some, but people want to hear, like, yes, I'm here, and you're like, oh, that's Nancy, and it's tricky. It's hard. It's a very fine line. It's a very fine
Mhm.
line. And it just goes back to, unfortunately, trauma cells. But I think that there's definitely I don't know.
There's a small shift happening. Like
There, yeah.
it's small, but I think too a lot of it has to do with the demographic. Now I'm going to go really in the rabbit hole here from a sociological perspective. I think it has a lot to do with the dynamic of paranormal entertainment, especially with certain TV shows.
Mhm.
I call it broast hunting, not ghost hunting. Uh,
That's good.
true.
That's good. I like that.
But it's like, oh man, dude, bro,
Yeah, all constant.
But and we're seeing that style being replicated into some really popular YouTube channels and some really popular like TikTok outlets. So that whole like the bass beat that comes in with something happening, it's like, everyone looks like they're from a Renaissance painting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Literally,
um,
yeah.
it sells, and unfortunately, I feel like we do have a couple more years of that happening. Um, but I think it's also getting exhausted. I think I've noticed, at least in my content, people are getting tired of that formula. Like it's getting overplayed, it's getting overdone. It's old now. Um, I feel like we might be entering maybe a new phase, maybe in the next 5 years. Um, I'll actually be really surprised if any of the TV shows we have today are still around in 5 years. I'll just be honest. Because the paranormal popularity comes in waves.
Yeah,
So, and we're
it
starting
does.
to see that decline. And the biggest sign of that decline is like Ghost Adventures has gotten more and more ridiculous because they literally have to outdo themselves. But at this point, where else can they go?
Exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. That's, again, if there's any new channels out there, that's a slippery slope, guys. Just don't do it. You can see. You can see exactly what happens. It's not pretty. And it's not any place you want to be, because it's not a game. This stuff is not, in my opinion, it's not fake. It's very, very real. And there's not much that you can do once you start pissing people off and spirits off and locations off. And it's a very lonely road. So I don't recommend you do
Mhm.
it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because there's a lot of locations now that won't allow paranormal investigators because of certain TV shows and the
Yes.
behaviors of some spirits,
Hmm.
or not spirits, behaviors of some paranormal investigators, upsetting the spirits, provoking the spirits. And they're like, nope, we're not about that.
Yep.
Just going to close up shop and not let you in
Thankfully.
anymore.
Gosh, that's hard to do, because that's good money. It's the same trap. Everybody's in the same trap, unfortunately. And I'm glad that they're starting to do. I'm noticing that as well. at the mere mention of a YouTube channel, people automatically look down on you. And I get it. Like, I'm not even mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
Or
The
these
only
locations charge you more. Like the Conjuring House has an influencer package that's like
yeah.
$400 more than just a regular investigation. And I know there's a lot of like paranormal creators who are really mad about that. And I'll be honest, I'm a little irked too, because I'm like, well, if I want to stream, I have to pay 400 more bucks. No, but you know what? Also, I've always really not liked streaming from haunted locations, because then it turns into me focusing on the viewer's experience and not my experience that I paid money to have. So I'm
Exactly.
like, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we don't need to stream everything. Maybe, and most of my more dynamic experiences have happened when I'm not focused on a camera. And it's just been me. Like, it is me and or my team having the experience, and there's no camera on. So
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it makes you wonder. It's happened to me, and it happens more than once. Like, it really makes you wonder. Like, they absolutely know what you're doing. They know who you are. They know that you're coming. And when you walk in with a camera acting like a fool, guess what? You're gonna get it.
Yep.
Or you're not. That's the worst part. You might not get it, and then you're just even more frustrated. It's a terrible cycle. Oh my gosh. That is so true. All right. We are getting ready to wrap this up. If anybody has any questions, real quick, get them in the chat for Alex. Again, all of the links are down below in the description, where you can find her books and all of the goodness that's going on there. You have a podcast too, right? Is that where this?
I did have a podcast. I have like 5 episodes that are like 2 years old that I haven't released, and I need to. Like, I have someone that can edit it for me. I just need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, and I was spotlighting, marginalized people in the paranormal. So people of color, LGBTQIA plus, women. So those who wouldn't normally have like at least those who don't easily get a platform, I could at least give them some space in my area. Say,
Amen.
hey, talk about what you're working on. Let's, what makes you happy? What gets your biscuits cooking? Bacon.
Yeah.
Look at your
Yep.
biscuits bacon. I've been considering restarting it, because I've had a lot of people come forward and say, hey, I really would like to be on your podcast and chat. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I really need to. It's just the time. It's a time thing. So
it is. It's a definite time suck. And that's a whole nother aspect to people that create content in the paranormal field, is it takes time. It takes money. It's travel. It's editing. It's my worst nightmare is editing. Like, I can sit in a dark room all day and talk to whoever I want, but then I got to edit that. And not the way I want to, because the way I want to is not going to be interesting to everybody else. So you got to, yeah. Anyway, that's really cool. Okay. So you've got that. You've got your YouTube channel, obviously. That's down below as well. Guys, make sure you go and subscribe to that. TikTok, of course. You guys are on TikTok. Follow her on that. It's just, I am just so excited that you are talking about this stuff. I know that there are a few others, but it's a very lonely road. So I'm wicked excited that you are on it, and it doesn't have to take a traumatic event or instance for you guys to get on this path as well. I mean, it all comes down to treating the golden rule, treat other people like you want to be treated. That it goes into the spirit world as well. It's no different. It's no different at all, actually. And as you said, you're going to get more, in my opinion. Of course, they don't perform on command, but you're going to get more, and you're going to get more compelling responses, as you had with the pie recipe. I mean, that is just so cool, that it was coming through. And not only that it was coming through, that you didn't ignore it. Like, you're like, hey, wait a minute, this is something, It's not like, oh, what you want, apple? Like, oh, all I have is a banana, make a joke out of it. Like, it's really neat that you did that. And I think that spirit absolutely remembers that. And if you were to go back there, you would probably strike up a conversation about more pie. I don't know. It's not something that just comes and goes. Like, that's really cool.
Yep. And like I said, ironically, that conversation happened in the spot where Jenny lost her life, like literally where she was standing. And I'm like sitting here talking about apple pie and,
That
giving a cookie recipe in return. Like, hey, since you already have the cinnamon, why don't you use the cinnamon and some cream of
yes.
tartar and, use that sugar and flour and get some eggs and, roll them into little balls, put them in the oven, and you'll get something called a snickerdoodle.
Oh my gosh, that blew her mind. That she's standing around with the other spirits now. They're like, hey, what did you get? Oh, I got the usual, douchebaggery. What'd you get? I got a cookie recipe, guys. You're not going to believe this. Talk of the town, she is.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Hey.
That is so cool. We got one more question here. Which YouTube creator do you like to watch and why?
That's a great question. Richelle, for one, I do enjoy Richelle.
Oh!
There's a plus size paranormal spooky model type creator. Her name is Loie Lane. She's pretty fabulous. Now, of course, some of her stuff is trauma based, and she does dive into true crime a little bit. That is a little bit exaggerated, but I really appreciate her existing for one and being really open about herself and her journey. And she'll also try on like bikinis and everything at like 300 plus pounds, and I'm just like, hell yeah, girl, you do
Get it, girl.
you
Absolutely.
get it. And she's also really hot. So,
anyway,
it doesn't hurt at all. I really enjoy her stuff, and her makeup is spot on. Goals. So I really like her stuff. There's another one. She's French, and I can't remember her name right now. I think I am subscribed to her. I'll have to check, but she's a French paranormal investigator who does take a more like less trauma-based approach with paranormal investigating. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. I'll have to check my subscription list because she's fabulous. Where are my subscriptions? That's the Masters of Musical Theater coming out.
No, it's perfect. We're all creators and we don't know how to work YouTube. I have that problem all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'll find her, and if anyone's curious, I'll share her name with you. But yeah, she was really great with her work as well, and she has a very neutral approach, and I really like her. And man, the fact I can't remember if her name is driving me nuts. But also I like Queer Ghost Hunters. They're not an active show anymore, but it was a whole team of queer paranormal investigators going to these different locations, sharing their own story with the spirits. I don't know if y'all know who Shane McClelland is from the Q Files podcast, but he was a part of that. Yeah. So
how do I not know this?
So he and Lori were a part of Queer Ghost Hunters. Like I said, the show's not going anymore. It was a YouTube show. But they have some really interesting episodes in that YouTube channel. So that one's a great one. If you're looking for something different in your content, that one's a fabulous one.
That sounds good.
Yeah. The name of my roller derby team, that's a good question. So I'm not on the team officially yet. I'm waiting to like pass, the safety checks and the skills sets, the skills checks and everything. But it's Nova Roller Derby, NOVA, for Northern Virginia. It's Nova Roller Derby. So hopefully you'll see me maybe play in about as Blarney Boo, maybe in about
Blarney Boo. That's perfect. I love it. That's awesome. I don't have the knees for roller derby, so good on you.
Yeah, I did see someone commented like it's rough on your knees. It is. But I got some really great knee pads, like amazing knee pads that I fall on them all the time, and it is totally fine.
That makes it all worth it. Oh man. All right, last minute question, guys. Get them in. In the meantime, I just want to, you better go rewatch it since the beginning. Shame on you for being late. I'm just teasing. So yes, I want to thank you once again, Alex, for being here and sharing your very important and busy time with us. I just knew I saw that live and I just knew that I had to get you on the channel one way or another without sounding creepy. But our little tribe here is very much respect-based. And even though we all have different tastes and likes in the world, everybody can agree that there's definitely different styles, and everybody, you can enjoy each style and not feel bad about it. But as long as you guys are aware that there is a different way, and I think everybody here is very much aware that there's a different way of going about it, and it's refreshing and it feels good, versus, it's not always about being scared or being creeped out or being spooky. It's about learning and getting responses that just are undeniable. And, it's anyway, we're shifting in that direction, and I'm very happy for that. It's slow, albeit, but good. And I again want to thank you for sort of taking the reins on this and being the forefront. I know the world's a very big place, but you're a voice in it, and that's really cool. And I just want to tell you that I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for giving me some space to talk on your platform. I really appreciate it. And yeah, and your audience is really awesome. I've been reading the comment thread, and they're really cool.
Yeah, they are. I'm very proud of them. I take them everywhere I go, for a reason. I couldn't have asked for a better. I got to be honest, I haven't had a troll. I'll have trolls now, but I haven't had a troll in years. It's just there's just no room for it. It's really cool. So I'm happy to share them with you. And I know that they are just going to go and shower you with all sorts of love. And, hopefully, who knows, down the road, maybe we can collab somewhere. Maybe we can have you back on the show. I'd love to have you back on. I know there's probably 1,000 different subjects that we'd love to pick your brain on. They listen to me talk all day, but it's not the same. Like, it's really cool to hear it from a different side. So, again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And everybody in the chat, of course, thank you guys for being here. This has been a very fast-moving hour. Unfortunately, it is over. Our time is up. But I do want to thank each and every one of you for being here. My donors, of course, my God, Amy and Oki and Nico. Thank you guys so much for your donations. It really does mean a lot. They do go far, believe it or not. This does take money to do, very much, sometimes lots and lots of money, but it's definitely worth it. For these reasons in general, finding little pockets. This is awesome. This is fun. And I hope, did she again? Girl, Nico, again, coming in with another one. My God, you are spoiling me. We got to get her up on the panel. She's got some really cool points as well. We'll do that another time. Anyway, Nico, thank you so much for that. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here. Again, Alex, once again, I can't thank you enough. This was so much fun. I love shining this light out there because it's needed. And I think everybody's very receptive to it. So I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, totally. All right, if you just hang out 1 second while I end this, then we'll wrap up behind scenes. But again, guys, thank you so much for being here. One last time, make sure you go and show love in the description. Click on all those links, subscribe, all of the above. Hopefully, this is not the last time you'll see of her. It certainly shouldn't be if you're following directions and going to her page. So we love you all so very much. Thanks for being here, and we will see you guys shortly.